Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to Final Trade. I made a video a couple days ago about how you do not have to sell at TCG low to get sales on TCG Player. And so the gist of that video was that the volume in the market is a lot higher than we realize. And it's easy to look at a static product page like this and not see the buyers in the background browsing and the buyers adding things to their cart and the buyers checking out and purchasing things. And it's not until you refresh one of these pages and you may or may not even recognize that some products have disappeared because people have bought them. And even then, you may think, well, they disappeared because the seller took them off the market, which may also be true in some cases. But the reality is TCG Player is a pretty fast moving market with decently high volume. Now, it's nowhere near the New York Stock Exchange, but for TCG products, it's the best we have. What I particularly want to talk about today is this race to the bottom that a lot of sellers on TCG Player engage in. And that's where they will gap down their sales price more than the market demands. And so what I mean by that is when you're out there and you desperately want to be the next person to sell a box, you will undercut the current market price by more than is necessary, and this happens mostly on newer products. So I've chosen Bloomborough collector boxes here because they are relatively new, 2 months old, still sells about 10 boxes a day, and because when I was ready to film this video, there was an example of it here to look at. Now, I don't know who any of these sellers are, except for RNG Games, that's Rob. Hey Rob. But I don't have any problem with any of these sellers. I don't know who they are. I'm not picking on them, all that stuff. I'm just using this as an example. And so we see the second lowest sale price, $2.25 for the box, $5 for the shipping. So we'll call that $2.30 because most of the people buying these are buying one box at a time. And below that is $2.25. And so what we see is that the lowest price seller in the market has gapped down $5 per box below the second lowest. Now, did he need to do that? No, he could have gapped down 1 cent. And ideally, 1 cent would have been the proper amount to gap down in order to try and catch that next sale, in order to be the person that the next buyer who comes in here buys from. But why might a seller come in here and gap down more than is necessary? Well, they may think this is going to insulate me against someone then gapping down below me. Okay, maybe it will, maybe it won't. There's typically other sellers willing to gap down below you again by a penny because they now consider $2.25 to be the new price ceiling for this product, and they're willing to go below that. So it really doesn't work. It just gets the product prices to come down faster and faster. You should be forcing the buyer to pay the highest amount possible. That's what we want, and the buyers want to pay the lowest amount possible. And when we get together in the market and we find prices that both sides are happy with, then we clear the market, we have a deal, and everyone goes away happy thinking they got a good price. And if they think they got a good price, they did get a good price. That's the criteria for a market to function. So stop gapping down so far. Stop doing that. Now, there are times when you really can't fault a seller for doing it. And here's really the one place. I'll come over here, Lord of the Rings Special Edition collector boxes. And what we see is some boxes at $2.85 when you add the box price and the shipping price. And then this guy at $2.47. So he's $38 cheaper for this box. And why might he do that? Well, if you look over here, he's got 4 sales. So he's a rather new seller. Now, I did go in and look at his account particularly. Apparently, it's an older account of somebody who just very, very rarely sells anything on TCG Player. And so his first sale was over a year ago, and today he's got this up looking for sale number 5. So he's just not a very prolific seller. And in this case, you might have to price well below whatever the current lowest price is to entice someone to take a chance of buying from you. Because while TCG Player is really good at keeping scammers out of the market, and it's really good at protecting buyers and pretty good at protecting sellers too, there is still just the effort if you get pulled into a fake seller who's trying to scam. TCG Player will take care of you. But yeah, you're going to have to write some emails. You're going to have to deal with some people. It's going to take some time. You'll eventually get your money back. But who knows what the price action will be by then. And so that's why a lot of people will avoid, especially buying $1,000 sealed products from sellers with very, very low feedback. And why, if you are that seller with the low feedback, you will have to undercut the market a little bit to get those first buyers to take a chance on you. But beyond that, it's not necessary. And if we go back here to Bloomberg, this is a seller with 50,000 sales. Nobody is thinking that he's a scammer. Nobody's thinking that, hey, this is probably going to go bad if I buy from him. And so it's really unnecessary for them to come in and undercut the market by a whole $5. And so, we want to play the capitalism game as hard as we can. And that means undercut by a penny. Don't race to the bottom. Don't gap down by several dollars when it's not necessary. And that'll keep the prices higher. One thing that is also difficult to appreciate, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, with how much volume there is in this market, it's how price insensitive buyers are in this market, because there are not a lot of good alternative markets out there. There's eBay, where it's a lot harder to always be sure you're getting the best price because things are not listed as a centralized sell order book like they are here. And because sometimes people can just list things with bad keywords to get them to not come up on your search, or maybe too many people have paid extra money to sponsor their listings and get those pushed to the top. So it's a lot harder for somebody to go out and necessarily find a better deal elsewhere. So that means that the buyers are a lot more price insensitive. They are willing to pay the couple of extra dollars. I'm willing to bet that whoever buys these 7 boxes from this buyer here, who is currently the cheapest at $5 below the second cheapest, probably all of those buyers would have paid $5 more per box. So keep that in mind when you're pricing things, especially as you price more and more expensive items. Remember what I said in the video several days ago, that the market will churn around in terms of completed transaction prices throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month. The price will eventually, most of the time, come up to meet where you would like to sell at. Not always, but most products, most of the time, if you're patient, you can get those extra dollars. And it's all a matter of how fast you need to turn the money in your business, what the velocity of cash flow you're looking for is, and those other considerations. But stop gapping down, stop racing to the bottom. And, maybe I need to make a TCG Player sellers cartel so we can price fix and control the market. Thanks to everyone who makes this content possible, especially my very generous supporters on Patreon. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and join me on Final Trade.